funding been looked at and explored, other than the county?
Yes, yeah, we've looked at commercially and that we do have lines of credit. They're actually extended into the property now. Ideally, we would come up with a source that would be, if you will, friendly, that would understand what the nature of the request is, and also be looking that if there was any risk, we would be able to mitigate the risk, as, you know, with generally commercial terms.
Sounds like to me that we really, unless you're going to have some questions.
The way I'm looking at this is he's asking for a letter of intent. And it's for 425,000 worst case scenario, could be less. And it's technically going to be a loan from the county at an interest rate of 5 or 7%.
Right.
What kind of length of time on this money are you talking about? Or do you have an idea how long you would want this loan for at 5%?
You could make it as short as you needed. You could go 5 to 7. I don't know that I'd want to go too much shorter than 5,
Okay.
just because we would just have been settled into our operations when we would be seeking to refinance the loan in order to take it out. So it's just going to be a guess as to where we'll be environmentally in the economic environment, 5 years or whatever it is hence. But we could go short. So if you needed it 3, we'd have to do that.
And you may not need it at all.
No, in fact, I'm betting I'm not going to.
Okay.
That's my bet right here.
I tend to agree with you, but I think that we're a little concerned because we have some major issues facing us, and we don't want to
Not at all. I understand.
extend, too much, but I really think that in order to facilitate this project to keep going, which is important to all of us, I think the entire community, that, we're going to partner up, or my feeling is that I'm willing to partner up with you.
But just
We're in this project with you pretty good.
Right.
I mean, we donated the land, we donated the building, the school building,
yes.
and we dumped $1.5 million in it. I want to see it. And the fact that we were able to do that is going to bring a $19 or $21 million project to Kent County.
Yeah.
I think the fact that we have the money that we can lend you.
Yep.
If in fact it's needed. I'd hate for us to be so short-sighted that we don't make sure that this thing gets completed.
Absolutely.
That's my take on it as well, so.
Yeah.
And when do you need the letter of intent by?
Probably about 30 days, I think.
Okay.
About 30 days is when we'd be looking for something. I would draft it, send it to you, and that way you'd have something to share and people could respond to. That'd be, if you decide.
After Frank sends a draft letter of intent, we can work through legal, financial, whatever considerations, and then bring it back in front of you for consideration.
Any other questions? John, you okay?
I'm fine.
Okay.
I was fine since he started telling me it was just a loan.
Well, I will say this, there's been several of us on this board that, one of us up here, who I won't mention his name, but he said if this project was the only project that gets done in his 4 years, he will look at those 4 years as a successful term. So we're there for you, and we're glad to be able to help, because it's obvious that it wouldn't have took place, this would not have took place without the county center
No,
being
it
involved.
would not have.
So we're good. We'll work with you. I think it's unanimous from what I hear. We need to put that in a motion now, Shelley, or you want to wait till we get the letter?
No motion necessary right now. You'll take it up for consideration after we bring a document to you.
And we can always craft into it as well, language that says, this offer is conditioned upon, and such that you could protect yourselves for whatever eventuality you would need to anticipate. We can build that in. So protect you guys all the way. We're very grateful for the support that we've received. This county is second to none in the state of Maryland for its support of projects like this. And if it had not been for your intervention, we wouldn't be here, folks. We would not be here. And that's We've said that in front of the secretary of the department, said it in front of the governor. They know that this is work that's important and that you've stood by it. So, thank you.
And if I'm not mistaken, in one of our prior conversations, you told me that whether it was Secretary Day or I think it was, basically said that because of the county's involvement in this project, it sort of raised us up to a higher level.
Yeah.
That they're going to help those that help themselves, basically, is what was kind of relayed to me.
You've created a formula by which projects in rural areas can now be considered. You've done something that other jurisdictions hadn't done, and you did that in a way that complied with the requirements, that was able to use funding that could have been used, but you put it to a more immediate need, and you've done it in a way that I think could be used by other parts across the state, and it should be. And I think that you should, a lot of the rural jurisdictions are paying attention to what was accomplished and is what's being accomplished here in Kent. Yeah. You've done a lot. You've done some great work. You to be
Well, we
congratulated.
appreciate you keeping us up front and involved in it and keeping us abreast of how this materializes. And we want to thank you for staying on top of it as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very grateful.
We'll wait for your letter.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, department requests and updates. Establishment of Kent County Agricultural Preservation Districts. How we doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. Welcome.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Rob Tracy. I'm an associate planner with the Department of Planning and Zoning. I'm here today to talk about I'm here today to talk about 4 districts, agricultural preservation districts. The Kent County Agricultural Preservation Advisory Board reviewed these districts and sent a favorable recommendation to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission also reviewed those districts. These farms are zoned agricultural by the county. They are outside of the water and sewer area, and they are within the priority preservation area. They meet all the requirements for the creation of these districts, and staff would recommend the introduction and the scheduling of a public hearing so that they can go through the process. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions?
No, sir.
I have none either. Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing to review and approve the 4 agricultural preservation districts applications.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kent County Housing Study Grant Application.
Hello again.
Good morning to
Good
you
morning.
both.
Do you want me to start, or do you want to?
I can start, and then you've got all the good
Okay.
stuff, so. Since I arrived in Kent County, there has been a lot of talk about housing needs and housing issues and shortages in housing. And Jamie and I have worked, do you want to come up, Jamie? Because we're really kind of doing this together. So there's an opportunity for some grant money to do the housing inventory study that is in the 2018 comprehensive plan, and it's one of the things we've talked about a lot. So I'm excited that we can sort of work together and hopefully land some money through a grant that Joanne's helping us with to do that study and understand what we need. So, and I'll turn it over to you, Joanne.
Sure. So we are seeking to submit a grant to the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development to get funding. As Bill mentioned, this is really sort of a joint effort between Department of Planning, Housing and Zoning and Economic Tourism and Development to seek grant funding to procure professional services to really develop a comprehensive Kent County housing study or inventory, as Bill mentioned, which is aligned with a strategy in our 2018 comprehensive plan. that would really provide detailed analysis on the current demand and supply for housing stock by various sociodemographic ranges of Kent County residents, really assessing the availability, accessibility, adequacy, affordability of housing, and quantify what those needs are and those gaps to support strategies to meet future demand and foster economic development and accessibility of housing for Kent County residents. The development of this inventory or study is also envisioned as a collaborative process that would include our municipalities as well as relevant community stakeholder groups to provide the most robust data inputs and better inform strategic and actionable housing goals and priorities that would flow from development of this study. The grant application that we're looking to make is to request $37,000 in grant funds from the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. I will note that the Upper Shore Regional Council has also pledged an additional $13,000 that they will support towards this effort. So if we're awarded the funds, we'd have a total of $50,000 available to devote to this effort of providing a countywide housing study. As I mentioned, again, inclusive of the participation of the municipalities as well. We anticipate that between these two sources that would fully fund the commissioning of the study and that we would not need any further budgeted funds from the county. Anything else you want to add to this?
She covered it all. She's done a great job putting this together, so, and it's been great to work with planning, housing, and zoning to come up with the language for the grant application. So again, I commend Joanne for putting it all together. We've had not kind of like years of hearing all of the anecdotal stuff about housing in Kent County, but it would be good to have the actual data so that we can figure out where the gaps are and get some recommendations on how we address those gaps.
And my hope would be that, right, there's a wide sort of, kind of, if you can imagine a graph with points all over it, of people at different income levels, different family sizes, and then there's another graph with a wide spread of points at houses at all kinds of price points. If those can be sort of, with regression analysis and other ways that, consultants can handle it, turned into groups, and then we can match up what groups are kind of missing a house for their income level, then we can hopefully focus on getting funds in the future and doing programs to fill that gap. Because when the market gets out of sync, sometimes it's only one or two places that are off, and then that throws everything out. So the hope is we can identify those few spots that need help, provide that help with our partners in Kent Affordable Housing and Rebuilding Kent County to sort of bridge that gap, and perhaps, hopefully, the market will kind of normalize and everybody will have houses in their range that are affordable for them. So that's the goal.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Any questions?
I have more than can be answered right here, but I will.
Well, we're hoping to find some
It's just
answers to
it's a very
questions.
complex, very complex, and it's not just localized to Kent County.
Absolutely.
You can call anybody that you know anywhere in the country, and they're going, it's the same everywhere.
It's part of the reason to try to get a grant and get a consultant, because it's
Right.
not something staff can really
No.
do.
Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve submission of a grant application to the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development for funding to develop a comprehensive housing study for Kent County, Maryland.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Third quarter FY 2025 financial statements, and I bet you we're getting ready to hear from Miss Pat Merritt. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning.
She's the second merit here today.
That's right.
Okay, so I have two things for you this morning, and we're going to start with the financial statements.
So you found us another bunch of money, huh?
Well, there's some money here, yes.
Okay.
We have a positive picture after the first 9 months. So the first page that you have shows the profit and loss statement. The revenues are projected, the actual revenues from July through March are a little over $54.5 million. They were budgeted at $53.9 million, so we have a positive variance in there of $662,000. On the expense side, we had budgeted to spend just under $47 million too, and we ended up spending $44.9 million. So we have a $2.2 million favorable variance on the expense side. And we'll talk a little bit about what's causing those variances. So on the next page, you can see the major variances on the revenue side. And primarily, we're seeing positive variances in our income tax. We're up 16% over last year at this point in time. Our interest income is also growing. We have, the rates are up and our balances are higher. So we're seeing money there. And we also had a larger legit premium refund than we had anticipated. Our service charges are up, both out at the detention center and at Parks and Rec. Property transfers and 911 fees and admission fees are also up. On the downside, our property taxes are running a little behind where we thought they'd be. It's kind of split between residential and commercial and utilities. So, but we think we're probably going to end the year really close. I mean, it's over a $30 million number, so that variance is very small. So overall, that's what makes up the positive revenue variance of 662. On the expense side, on the third page, the most favorable variance is in salaries and benefits. It's due to turnover, and you can see the departments there that have been affected the largest. And also we have the health and the taxes related to that. The only negative variance in here is the overtime, and that's kind of an offset when we're running short in these departments, they're having to staff, especially in public works and public safety, with overtime. So that accounts for $956,000 of the favorable variance. The next highest favorable variance is in our operating budgets, and you can see there by department where we're seeing those variances. We also have positive variances in our transfers to other funds, largest being in water wastewater, and that is a combination of the allocation fees that we've received in excess of budget and also in staffing vacancies. Our contingency, at the end of March, our contingency looked favorable, but you know that situation has changed. So we increased the number, and I think we've pretty much spent all of our contingency. So that $227,000 favorable variance, I think, goes away in April. So, but anyway, at the end of March, our expenditures were $2,247,000 favorable to budget. So overall, we're about $2.9 million better than we thought we'd be at this point in the year. So that's all good news. I don't know if you have any questions about any of the...
You come in every day for the next month, and you can add a little more to it, that you find.
We're moving in the right direction, hopefully. Okay, well, if there's no questions, I have one other item for you today. We had received an offer to purchase a tax sale property at a reduced amount. And you can see, I guess, in your packets, I have a copy of the email. And this property has been in tax sale for 11 years without being purchased. So it's one of those properties that we continually cannot sell. The property is scheduled to be offered at tax sale May 22nd, next week, for $20,210. And that is a combination of the county, state, and Rock Hall taxes and interest that are due on the property. And you can see a schedule that has the breakdown there. In the past, with situations like this where we've had requests, what we typically have done is waive the county interest. We can't waive state taxes, we can't waive town taxes, and we have typically not waived our own taxes, but we have waived the interest. So if we were to do so with this property, it would reduce the price from $20,210 down to $13,068. So it would take $7,141 off the price. And typically, when we've had someone approach us, we haven't made a private sale. What we've said is we'll reduce the price, we'll put it in at public auction, and they can bid for it at the reduced price in the public auction.
That was my only question. Are we gonna put it at tax sale that much lower, with a lower price?
Correct.
So that everybody that's interested has the same opportunity? That's my only question.
That has been our past practice, and that's what I would recommend
So
that
that
we do.
nobody can say, well, Heck, if I knew you were gonna do that, I'd have bought it, so.
Right.
Absolutely.
We just want, I don't have a problem in doing it because it's been sitting around so long, but
Correct.
I don't wanna,
Chances are it's not going to sell with all the interest because of the value of the property compared to what's being offered. So this
Yeah.
is a good way to get it off our rolls.
Correct, and yeah, so hopefully this person will follow up and make a bid. Yeah, so I guess I'm requesting that, that we make a motion to waive the county interest on the tax sale property.
any other questions,
No, sir, you're in.
John?
No.
And I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to waive the county interest on the tax sale property 05-021413.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay, well, thank you, and hopefully we'll have that one back on the tax rolls.
Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Human Resource Director, and got a couple issues here, two different ones to talk about.
Good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Rachel with me this morning. You have two items in front of you. They're both for, if I can get the right piece of paper here. They are both for paramedic shift supervisor vacancies. Came about as a result of staffing changes. There were three candidates interviewed. Two of the three actually are being recommended for shift supervisor positions. Rachel was part of the interview panel, as was Pete. You have the materials about both of the recommended candidates in your packets, and we're happy to answer any questions about either one.
The only question I have, there's obviously going to be a 5% increase in salary due to the promotion.
One's a 5% increase, and if I remember correctly. The other is slightly higher than that to bring the person to the beginning of the new range. So I think it's 5 for one and 5.3 for the other. Remember that number correctly? Yep.
And are those costs covered in the current FY25 budget?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch.
Are those costs, those increased costs covered in the FY25 budget as a result of,
Because of the staffing changes and the salary, yes. Short answer is yes.
Any other questions?
No.
Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve both conditional offers to promote the recommended candidates as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
County Administrator.
Okay, thank you. With your permission, I'd like to invite Dan Mattson up. He has a few updates on some of the projects that he has been working on.
Thank you, and I apologize for not having this formally on the agenda. I did just want to give a few project updates, starting with the EMS building construction. There was some delays over the last month associated with scheduling the contractors, the additional contractors and additional work for the site work that was recently approved, but they are back to work at the EMS facility. A lot of the subsurface work is done, the utility conduits and stubs out. We're working, those are from the building coming out, installed, and this past Thursday, the concrete slab was poured in the building. So they're going to be moving to interior construction, framing, and so forth. And then we're coordinating specific dates for the utility connections to be made, the water taps and the sanitary sewer tap. We're coordinating that with the building users, the sheriff, detention center, and OES, because the water tap for the sprinkler system will require about a 2-hour shutdown of water to that building. And the sanitary sewer connection will need to bring a pipe across the driveway, and that will shut down the driveway for about a day. So we wanted to schedule that with advance notice so that they can best accommodate the interruption to their operations. You will see at an upcoming meeting probably a consent item that is just some internal accounting for that project. Rhodes has donated or provided fill material and some services towards that project, and there's just a paperwork exercise of moving the money from one budget to another to properly account for that. At Bayside Landing, they are backfilling the tiebacks of the bulkheads. The bulkhead construction itself is completed. The conduits are going in, and backfill and general site cleanup will be completed, or is anticipated to be completed this week. The finger piers and the main piers are under construction, and we anticipate that by next Friday afternoon, the 23rd, we'll be able to have boats back in their slips there. So we coordinated that with the contractor. He still is accruing daily fees, and we'll coordinate that with the slip holders. We held a recent meeting with KCI about the Millington wastewater treatment plant. That is nearing 90% design, and at 90% is when we make our first permit submission to MDE. I expect that within the next month. We're also coordinating the necessary easements with SHA and private property owners to take the pipe from the plant out to the creek. So drawing up those easement plans and things, that's in progress as well, in addition to, as you know, the property sale.
Discharge pipe.
The discharge pipe, yes.
Made it sound, never, the discharge.
The discharge, yes. Yeah, we're not taking water from the creek. Public Works, and specifically Mike Molds and Chris Yanikis, our superintendent for water wastewater, recently prepared a PFAS action plan. This was something that was required by MDE as part of a permit renewal for the spray field in Wharton. It basically just describes how we evaluate and test for potential PFAS and what the next immediate steps would be. The state has a general template of what they want in these plans, but we compiled it and made it specific to our plan. That will be going to MDE for their review within the next week. So that was required by our permit, but we recently completed it and we'll be submitting that. And then I wanted to make you aware, I don't have this as an item for approval today, but it will be at a future meeting. And before I describe it, we have the money.
That's good, though.
Well number 5 at Wharton Water Plant was recently inspected. We found several holes in the pipe. It's a 260-foot drop pipe that goes down the well. And those holes are causing recirculation of water within that well, as well as recirculation into the adjacent well number 6. In addition to issues with the pipe, the pump itself is currently operational, but when it was removed for the inspection, it has severe iron buildup and scaling. We don't think there's much life left in it. The cost to replace the pipe and redevelop the well, I would consider a necessity, and that comes to about $40,000. And then to replace the pipe right now, it is just under $4,500. If we were to forego the pump and do it in a few years when it actually breaks, I would expect that number to be closer to $15,000 between additional mobilizations, and it's easy to replace it when they already have it all taken apart. To retake it apart after they do the well redevelopment would add a substantial amount of cost. So all this totals into a $44,550 contract with AC Schultes. This has been developing very recently, so I wanted to bring that to your attention now, but we have worked with finance. We have funds available to cover that work, and I will be presenting a contract with our recommendation for approval at a future meeting.
And that's actually going to be accomplished in FY '25, or?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember when we were doing those wells, Wharton was the hardest place in the county to find a place of water. That's a,
Yeah, and we're actually up to, we have well 5 and 6 because the first 4 have all served their life and been retired. So yes, it's,
At the EMS building, I don't think it's going to slow anything up, but I think I read that there was a exit that's going to go out on the Flatland Road.
yes, from the back of the building, the opposite side, there's the current driveway, I would call the front of the building. On the back side, there's pull-through doors on each side of the garage, and they would be able to pull out and turn straight onto the Flatland without, if it's an emergency vehicle proceeding expeditiously quickly, we wouldn't want it mixing with standard traffic within that parking lot, so we propose an extra exit-only driveway.
And we're waiting for State Highway to,
Yes, to finish their review and approval.
do you know whether they're going to put one of those lights that turns red or yellow there?
I was promised that there would be no requirement of additional signal for that.
Okay.
I don't have the final approval yet, but that was something we discussed very early on, because obviously signals are a very high expense item. And given the relatively low traffic in that area, it was deemed not necessary, so.
one question, are you done?
Yes, that's everything I had.
One question I just want to ask, and Pete's here too. Pete, the issue we had in the 911 center where we had a leak at one time, and then we've been checking into it, are we satisfied that that's fixed? Is there more we need to do? The reason I keep bringing it up, when I saw it, went down there and looked at it, it's about this far from some very expensive equipment. If it's fixed, I'm good, but if it's not, I just wanted an update of where that stands.
It still exists in its temporary condition, so the pipe is still blocked. We had a firm or a contractor do a detailed TV inspection of that pipe to determine exactly where repairs need to be made in the final scope and cost of the repairs, as opposed to just doing the whole pipe. I got that report yesterday. I have not had a chance to review it, but I think we're now operating on a very short timeline. We have all the information we need to properly scope the cost of the repair.
Enough said, then I'm good.
There's no water in the 911 center right now, but it's blocked.
What's that?
There's no water in the 911 center right now, but it's blocked. He's talking about actually repairing it.
I got you. Well,
Our equipment is
it's a pretty
protected for now.
important spot. That's
Yes,
the only
sir.
reason I've got it, that I have trouble getting that out of my head. So,
Thank you.
thank you. And one other thing, while I apologize, but we had a discussion about that kitchen. Is that moving forward?
Yes,
down
sir.
there? Okay,
With DPW's assistance, yes.
gotcha. All right,
Thank
thank you.
The pipe in the basement of the courthouse,
Yes.
has it been repaired yet, or?
Yes, it has.
Oh, great,
Yes.
thank you.
Very good. All right, Shelley, I think you've still got some more here.
I do. Thank you very much for the diversion. First item that I would like to discuss with you is the legislative initiatives for 2026. MACo, Maryland Association of Counties, every year decides on 4 legislative initiatives that they walk through the General Assembly, hand carry, and speak to people about. These are items that generally are just very important to counties in particular, local governments in general, but counties in particular. This year, they are putting out their annual plea for ideas for legislative initiatives, and they can be brought forward if the county has anything in particular that we would like to put up for discussion.
Well,
I think we'd be remiss, I'm sorry, if we
Go
didn't bring up the topic of Kerwin and
I don't think that, from what you hear and read in the papers and everything, I don't know that there's a county out there that hasn't struggled with complying with it. So I think, as Albert pointed out, that's going to be a topic of conversation because our days are yet to get here, where we're going to be, next year is going to be much more difficult than was this year.
there
So we'll be
particular-
interested in what changes, if there is any.
Is there a particular aspect you would like to include on the
Well,
submission?
personally, I mean, I think that we should try to follow suit of, what was it, Carroll County, who got some polls help from the state. I mean, I think we should try to get on that as soon as possible.
And so what they requested was a waiver.
Right.
That is separate than the legislative initiatives.
Well, but I just- yeah.
Right, is there something that we could submit that has to do with a waiver for a legislative initiative?
I'd love to see, I don't know why everybody isn't asking for the same waiver personally. When I read that, I was just a little confused of why one county could get a waiver and the rest of us didn't personally, but.
Well, Dorchester tried, but they weren't timely.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but I mean, it just doesn't make
The-
sense to me, I mean.
What I would like to maybe suggest is that the Superintendent's Association, MACO, MABE, everyone's got the same concerns. We all want the best education for our kids, and we want our teachers treated properly, but it's just not affordable.
Right.
The Rural County Coalition, that someone form a group with each one of those individual organizations, come up with ideas that are still going to provide our children with a good education, and involve the legislatures, folks, the representatives, in the conversation before the session starts. We don't want to wait until they're well into it. We need to have this ironed out. I think they're going to have an early session this year, aren't they?
As of
In the fall?
A special session.
in October, right?
And maybe that's the time that everyone can kind of brainstorm and see how we can best serve our students and our educational system without breaking the counties, because, I mean, it's going to be astronomical. I mean, we're the smallest county in the state, and it's going to be really, really tough for us.
And I don't know how MACO could have a conference this summer without having some type of, without having some type of an update from all the different counties as how it's affected them. And what, if anything, we could do about it, or if there's some changes. Because, look, we've been pretty fortunate up till this year, but if the estimates are right next year, we're gonna be ready to, we're gonna be in a jam.
Absolutely. So very specifically, this is for the legislative initiatives for 2026, so this
Sure.
doesn't affect conference agendas or
But
if
while
they're
we're talking
assuming-
about MACO, I would
absolutely.
pass that on, that might be a good session. Last year, if my memory serves me, I don't know that there was a session on, maybe.
I don't think there was, and that was
It's-
kind of very
It
conspicuous.
surprised
Everybody
me
noticed
because
that.
that's the
Right.
biggest topic in Maryland right now, and to not even discuss it, but now we've all lived through it for several years. Be nice to hear how
How
it's.
we're going to survive.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
They had
years to come.
it, they had it on the agenda once, they had at the winter conference one year, but it was basically a PR piece where they were touting the benefits of it. There was no serious discussion about how it's going to be funded, as I recall.
And if I recall correctly, the Rural County Coalition had real reservations about what was going on, but the other coalition, the major,
The urban.
the urban counties were like all into it. But
But now the big
now they've
counties are
experienced-
saying that they're getting hit with a bill too.
Right.
that they can't afford to pay.
Right.
The session that Tom is talking about, I specifically remember my counterpart from Prince George's County, so one of the big counties, she spoke vehemently against the financial aspect of, so by the time it hit that agenda, it was already affecting the urban counties, and they were vehemently, alarmingly requesting assistance from the state. So we could submit something that is basically an initiative to look at modification or pausing rollout of the blueprint. If, that's basically what I heard you say, to summarize. Okay. So every county gets an opportunity to submit a potential initiative. Each of the affiliates can submit them, individuals can submit them, and then they all get evaluated. And the first time they will compile them will be in August for the Legislative Initiatives Committee to review.
If we're going to go down that road, I mean, I think Blueprint should be one, and in all honesty, I think that we should, and we may not get a whole lot of support from other counties, but I think we, again, would regret if we didn't mention our middle school and the lack of funding there.
So that's a really good legislative initiative, but the whole state is not going to take
I
that
know
up as
that,
one of
but
the
I
four.
think that maybe we should, I mean, if we don't have anything else, if we're submitting three, it's worth putting it out there.
So we basically get to submit one
Okay.
as the county?
I thought we were submitting three.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But we're definitely keeping our middle school legislative on
Only
the forefront.
submit one?
I'm sorry?
We can only submit one?
Yeah, I thought it
But
said.
per county, each county elected body can submit one potential legislative initiative.
Well, I would imagine that the one for the blueprint is going to be mentioned by 23 other counties in Baltimore City probably, so.
So maybe we ought to have a backup,
You can have a backup. In years,
which I would,
in years past, we've talked about highway user revenues, we've talked about retention of EMS.
That fell on deaf ears.
Right.
Yeah.
Retention of public safety staff initiatives. We've talked about, I mean, there's been a variety of
Getting rid
different,
of the sprinkler system legislation on new homes that everybody talks about increasing the price of new homes, and that in itself probably added 10,000 to more
And
to
I
each
think-
house that's being built, only to see that very few of them ever are used for fire, but they do freeze up in the wintertime and destroy the house that everybody's trying to save.
correct. And I think that one was couched in a broader one that was basically trying to get costs for new housing down. And that was one of the elements. So a lot of times they'll take a bunch of these initiatives and bundle them together so that a lot more than just 4 initiatives can be
Because
addressed and
when that
given.
legislation first come out, the planning office had to put a waiver together, and you could come in as a new home builder, and you could sign that you didn't want to do, you could opt out of that, and you save that money. And then a year or two later,
Yeah, I
they
think
made
it
it
was-
mandatory.
I think it was a year later, there was basically a,
But if you want to bring that, something that would immediately bring down the cost of a house, that certainly is one of them.
absolutely.
But I'm, off the top of my head, I really don't know of anything else.
We have some time to think about this, right?
Actually, they're due June 27th,
Okay.
so there's just over a month.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them reconsider allowing the counties to contract their perk test out, as opposed to the current practice where we're not allowed to do that. Perk test and any other testing
So
that,
if I'm not mistaken, that's COMAR, so that wouldn't be
No, it would-
annotated code.
Yep.
So if it's COMAR, that's an
With
MDE
legislatures.
regulation.
would they have something to do with it?
It's MDE regulation, basically.
It's not a legislative provision, it's a
Right.
regulatory provision.
Right,
So the
right.
agency writes those, not the legislature. The legislature gives the agency the ability to write those, but the actual regulations are written by the agency.
So would you like us to go ahead and submit the blueprint, or do you want us to put it on hold and think about it a little more?
Well, when you talk about the blueprint, I think there's two letters that ought to go out. One, with this being obviously something that needs to be addressed in the legislature. But then the other one is just to Mako saying, we think this is a big enough story to have
Conference.
a time at the session to hear from the counties. It ought to be a discussion of the blueprint, even if nothing comes of it, that we may learn how everybody else is having to live with it and what they're gonna do. But I would be disappointed if we went down there to that, and this was not mentioned, like it was last year.
Right, but it'd be the funding of it,
Right,
not like a PR piece as to how great the
Right.
blueprint is. You
Right.
know, it need to be centered
Now
around
we
how
know
we
the
pay for
effects
it.
of it.
Right.
I mean, we've got personal experience and we know what's coming down the road.
right.
Because next year is going to be extremely difficult for us.
So the next 2 or 3 years, because
Yeah,
those are.
the next
they're-
4
they're
years,
big
it amounts to
chunks.
$8 million in
Right.
4 years
Right,
that we have to generate just for the blueprint.
right.
And, you know,
$4
I'm just
million,
gonna put this out
$8
there.
million in 4 years.
I'm just gonna put this out there so people start thinking about this, that, okay, so the only way these counties, and this is a statewide initiative, to afford the blueprint is to raise real estate taxes. And to help fund the blueprint. As a result of that, I'm not talking about a small raise in property taxes. It's going to be a considerable raise in taxes, which I am opposed to. But, and I think we all are at this point.
Absolutely.
And some of the, and not that the teachers don't need better salaries, they certainly do. But a lot of, the big piece from what I've heard from the educators is that one of the biggest costs is salaries for
100%.
our staff, our teachers. But if they own homes, guess what? They better be setting that pay raise aside to help pay the real estate taxes, because they're gonna go way up. And it's probably just gonna be a wash. You may be making another $10,000-15,000 salary, but also your property taxes are gonna go up astronomically, and you're not gonna see much of a benefit. So
Right.
it's just something I just wanted to put out for people to think about it. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I know that it's not sustainable the way it's written right now. Good intentions, but there's a cost associated with everything that we just can't afford. We have to live within our means.
Okay. If we are ready, I can move on to the next item.
I do think, Shelley,
Yes.
that Mako could lead the way here with an effort to get these other organizations, associations to brainstorm, come up with ideas that can be presented to Annapolis in an effort to still keep quality education, meet some of the mandates, and maybe pause some of them. But somebody's got to coordinate that.
Right.
And I don't think Kent County's got the, little old Kent County has, I mean, we are committed to being involved in it. But I think Mako could really lead the way if they choose to.
I would say probably your biggest chance of being very effective would be to get the legislative committee on board with that. That represents all 24 jurisdictions, and that is something that they could assuredly take up as an initiative.
I would think they would want to, but
Okay, so we have discussed several times some issues with our liquor license approvals, and this has to do with the Comptroller of Maryland's database of who's in good standing, more or less. So a letter was sent, signed by the three of you, and we did receive a response from Michael Baird, who is the Intergovernmental Affair Director, proposing a virtual meeting. And I believe Jamie has also spoken with somebody. Jamie, can you come forward and share with the commissioners what you have spoken with your point of contact about?
So Mary Handley is the Eastern Shore liaison for the Comptroller's Office. And we speak to her via email, phone calls, and she came in and visited with Rose and I probably about a month and a half ago. And we explained to her the issues that we were having with the liquor license in the Commissioner's Office, as well as sales and use tax, all of the issues when it comes to logging on and trying to get assistance. We can say that it has gotten a little bit better with the two contacts we have now that tax season deadline is over. So we feel like it is getting better. Mary did mention in an email yesterday that they would like, Comptroller Learman would like to come to Kent County in July. So we'll be working with the Commissioner's Office to set up that visit so that we can share any concerns we have at that time. But it has been painful. It's painful for the business owners, and it's painful for mainly Rose because she's the one that's working, one-on-one with these business owners, trying to get them through the process. But it has gotten better and we're getting better responses. Do you want to add anything to that, Rose?
No, I just will say that I have probably handheld for about 7 to 10 businesses. And, one you're very familiar with that has come before you a couple of times. I am very hopeful that her last submission is up for review on Thursday and that she should be finished by then. But it's not an easy process, and part of the frustration is not being able to reach somebody on the other end of that line. And as Jamie said, our contacts, now that tax season is over, they are much more available. And the one that we have is extremely positive to work with in, I need this, this, and this, and he will direct me, okay, you need to go here, you need to go there, and, so that we can streamline the process because it's very frustrating.
Well, it sounds like when we have that meeting in July, is that what you said?
Yes.
That's what Mary has offered with her discussions with
Rose,
Jamie.
you'd be an excellent person to talk to these people, and because you certainly have the history of trying to work through it, and you can obviously tell them where the issues you've had with them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, for sure.
but those are virtual meeting.
They have offered a date for a virtual meeting, but then Jamie shared with me that they've offered a date for an in-person meeting. So-
I would say, because they're not saying, until July for in-person. So if there's an option, and maybe I missed that one, Shelley, I apologize. But if there's an option for a virtual meeting, maybe staff could meet with them just to share the challenges we've had. Somebody from the Commissioner's Office as well as somebody from our office could meet with them.
It'd be good that they hear it right from the people that have been trying to help the businesses and
Right.
stuff, yeah.
So we can do that, we can do the virtual and still have the comptroller come in July. And good.
So no action necessary, that's more of a discussion
Thank you.
item.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And a conversation that we've been having for quite a while is where to house the Board of Elections. The previous lease that was signed prior to an extension ended, let's see, that one would have ended the beginning of last calendar year. We extended for 6 months, January through the end of June, and KRM held the rate for us. But we are approaching the end of this extension, so we are looking for another 6-month extension, July through December. The rate is raised a little bit, but it's well within industry standard to $15.45 per square foot, while we seek options of a more permanent solution for the Board of Elections. So the draft extension is in front of you for consideration to get us through the end of this calendar year.
And I also think that that raises the issue that we need to really make up our mind what we're going to do with Wharton Elementary School,
Correct.
or who's going to do what in it. I mean, obviously, we can't let it sit there and deteriorate any further unless we're going to tear the thing down. It's not up to us to do yet because the Board of Ed still uses it, but I think we've got to make a decision on that because that could have effect on this, what you just talked about,
Absolutely.
the elections office. And we have some other places, I think, that we're paying rent for that possibly refiguring these, what office space we got available. We ought to decide what we're going to do with Wharton Elementary School.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's certainly ideally located on the campus. It's, who knows what we'll put there, but we got to save it first.
Right. It's centrally located, it's
So
prime
I
spot.
think we ought to really consider getting somebody in there that knows building that can,
So we have some preliminary estimates. We have preliminary estimates of what it would take to rehab that. So Dan Metz and I have been in discussions with Dr. McComas and her staff about possibilities of moving forward. So we'll be bringing the Board of Education to the table, the three of you to the table to figure out what is the plan. If we're going to invest in rehabbing that building, I mean, that's a significant chunk of money, but that could be beneficial for the county as well as the Board of Ed. They could efficiently use some of that space as well.
yeah. And I was going to say that we certainly have to include Board of Education and Dr. McComas as well.
100%.
Because it's their building right now.
Absolutely.
So, but I think we need to move forward with that, I think.
Absolutely.
It's just getting, okay, enough said.
So today, before you for consideration is an extension of the current lease that would get us through the end of the calendar year.
And I think any questions? Yes. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Ninth Amendment to lease with KRM GSM LLC.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Before I call to vote, I also, one of the complaints that I've heard about their present location, and we talked about this early on about they didn't have a place they could meet. And I know we have that real nice location out to the community center that we could bring to their attention. Maybe they're not aware of it, but they're only going to meet a few times a year around elections probably. That'd be a great place for them to, just might keep that in mind. We got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
And then next up on the agenda is I have two additional non-county staff-related proclamation for your consideration. So no motion necessary, but you can sign them in the packet and we can distribute.
Very good. This is the time, is that it for you?
Correct,
John?
yes,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Are you done?
Yeah. This is our, I might report out one thing. I got, we had the Friends of East Neck Island come before us 3 weeks ago probably, talking about the fact that there's nobody down there from the federal level to take care of the East Neck Island Preserve. It's got a couple buildings down there. One of them's an old hunting lodge that's turned into somewhat of a museum and an office. And the Friends of East Neck Island was concerned about the lack of people down there to take care of it. There's no full-time people associated with the island anymore, and I don't think has been since 2023. And so we wrote a letter to Congressman Harris's office, I think, and I don't know if anyone else, Van Hollen, did we?
All three
All
of the
three,
offices.
okay.
Mhm.
And we hadn't heard back.
Senator
I
also
placed a
works as well.
call to him yesterday, or Congressman Harris's office yesterday, and talked to one of his people. And there's been some conversation about this issue with Congressman Harris's office. They're going to put a meeting together. They will be coming to talk, making a visit down there probably, and so a lot of people will be, those of us that want to be, will be invited to this meeting to discuss the possibilities. But I sort of explained to him what we thought maybe we could contribute to some degree, because and I pointed out, we already have a presence down there. We take care of the road, we take care of the public land, and we mow one of the camping areas down there. And so anyhow, they thought that, they said, look, that all sounds great. We look forward to talking. So at least we've made contact. They've contacted us back, and he sent me an email back after our conversation. So we'll be hearing from them, just to let you know that they're going to work on it with us somehow. Okay, then, nothing, anything else from John? Then it's time for the public comment and media review. Procedures for the public comment. Anyone that would like to address the commissioners, please feel free to do so. Yes, you did, Francois.
Great, thank you. I'm Francoise Sullivan from Wharton, Maryland. I was actually here to talk about the Pride Month proclamation, but I just real quick wanted to say the MAKO initiative, I wonder if there isn't an opportunity, since we know that a bunch of counties are already going to be focused on Kerwin, if it isn't a good opportunity for the Eastern Shore counties and the rural counties to get together and talk about finally changing the wealth calculator. I know that that's been a sticking point, something we've talked about for years and years.
The wealth
The wealth
calculation.
Oh, yes, the wealth formula.
We've talked at
I
nauseam, I know. We appreciate
I know,
that,
but-
absolutely. We would
But since
love the
everybody's focused on
opportunity.
education, it would be a way to help alleviate some of the cost of the blueprint.
The wealth formula is our biggest problem.
I know, I agree.
It puts us in a bad position to think, and I've said it 100 times, this will be 101, but
Touch on the hot button here,
I
here
know.
we go.
when I sit here and think that if we build a school, we have to pay 50% of it, and another county, who I'll allow to rename nameless,
Yeah.
pays zero, it cannot be that much difference in the wealth of the two counties. I won't argue that we may be in better shape than that county, but not to the tune of 50% difference.
I agree. That's why I think.
That's my only argument.
When I spoke with other superintendents and other leaders on the Eastern Shore in particular, everyone, that wealth calculator was an
Wealth
issue.
formula.
So while you're trying to gather groups together in solidarity for helping with the blueprint, it might be a good time to also segue into getting
And
that
I'll-
wealth calculator fixed.
And I'll tell you a little more about our experience, and I've been here long enough that we went to, one time, we went to the State Board of Education in Baltimore to bring up this topic. The three of us in the last couple of years have talked to the Senate President, the Speaker of the House, anybody that, the chairman of the Appropriations Committee.
You name it.
And they all say the same thing when we bring it up. Gentlemen, we'll talk to you about anything you want to talk about, but we will not talk to you about the wealth formula. And of course, the reason being, in my opinion, is because they can't justify it. So I think they're afraid that if they change something with us, that throws the whole wealth formula out of whack or so. I don't know, but it's not for a lack of trying. And I've even thought that it was worth taking it one step further, but I'm not quite there yet. But I think your point is well taken, and that's one thing we totally agree with one another about,
Yeah.
is that that's causes us a lot of headaches.
Yeah, agreed.
So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for considering the Delmarva Pride Center's request for the Pride Month proclamation. I'm currently the chair of the Kent County chapter of the Delmarva Pride Center. According to the Maryland Health Survey, 25% of Kent County high school students self-identify as queer or questioning. Out of 580 students, that is approximately 145 kids. A study by the Trevor Project shows that only 34% of trans and non-binary youth in rural areas feel supported where they live, compared to 67% in non-rural communities. And rural LGBTQIA+ youth are more likely to experience suicidal thoughts while facing barriers to mental health. Proclaiming June to be Pride Month in Kent County will show our LGBTQIA+ community that you acknowledge and support them as valued members of Kent County. I hope that you will vote to make this proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you. And we did.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Then I'll entertain. Will, you got all your questions answered? You're good to go. Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye.